Okay, people are still coming in to our verification tools session, but I am going to go ahead and get started right at 3. And you might hear the little doorbell ringing. That's people asking to be admitted. And so I will keep admitting as we go. Like that. Hi, Aaron. Aaron Donovan just joined us. So did Caroline. So people are coming from all over. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. So I'm Maggie Farley. I am with the Google News Lab, but I used to be with the Los Angeles Times as a foreign correspondent in Asia, and then covering the UN and going around the world, visiting peacekeepers in Africa and so forth. And now I am working with Google and with journalists all around America. Sorry, I'm admitting more people. They're just coming in droves right now. So I was just saying that the Google News Lab trains journalists all across the country. We used to go to the newsrooms and work hands-on, but as circumstances have it, we are coming to you through the magic of Google Meets, our virtual meetings. And because we have a lot of people, why don't you just go ahead and mute your microphones for now and send your questions in chat, and then Mackenzie is going to go ahead and stop me at any time and bring up some questions. You can even unmute your mic and ask a question. Here's David Baratz just joined. Hi, David. So go ahead and stop me if you want me to slow down or go over something again, or want to go deeper. And we will stop at a hard stop at 4 o'clock, but I will stay on if you want to and answer more questions. But I know that you're busy, you have reporting to do, photographs to take, and so on. So you can jump off right at 4 o'clock, or you can stay on. So I'm part of the Google News Lab, which is under the Google News Initiative. I'm the part of the group that deals with journalists and tries to introduce new tools to help make your reporting a little bit faster and easier. And then there's the business team that works with the publishers to try to help find alternative revenue streams and grow subscriptions. And then the tech team that makes really cool tools just for journalists, like Backlight, which I demonstrated last week. It's an AI tool to help you process massive amounts of documents. It's really fun. We also have a Google Innovation Grant going. The applications are open if you have a really great idea themed around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's money to make your ideas happen. So you can email me for more information, or just Google Innovation Grant and find out more about that. And then if you know any journalism students or just graduated journalists, we also have a new fellowship for journalism students, especially to help journalism students of color. We're trying to support the diversification of newsrooms and give journalists a chance to kind of break in. So check those out as well, or you can email me at mfarley@google.com for more information. Yes, we still have people coming in. That's Helu. Okay, so everything I talk about today here will be sent to you in a Google Doc that has all the resources and links. But you can also go to the news training website on g.co/news training that has all the tools in little modules that you can explore on your own at your own pace. There's all sorts of fun stuff in there. Google Earth Studio is one of my favorites, because you can fly like a drone all around the world, or even just zoom in on your own building. But it's great for scene setting in a story and websites. A lot of them were used for the protests, show exactly where George Floyd was killed and what the street looked like and so on. And the cars came in, the police cars came in. So it's a great little addition to your reporting portfolio. Still people coming in. And hi, Trisha, welcome. We're just getting started with the verification tools session. And so what we'll be looking at today are ways you can fact check information, verify images and videos. A lot of images and videos are coming in from crowdsourcing or user generated sources, or from social media. And it's really important to check those out. So I'll show you how. And how to find out who's behind that account or who posted it, and how to recognize bots. But let's start with fact checking. It's so important these days. You know, we're in election season. There's lots of disinformation and misinformation around COVID and around the protests. So all sorts of things coming in to check out. And the hardest kind of content to verify is something that looks official, but is actually not truthful. And a lot of the false websites that are popping up to kind of push one kind of viewpoint or another, they're really hard to figure out sometimes because they use wire stories and real content, real verified content mixed in with their manufactured content. So I'm trying to show you a bunch of ways to verify information and how to be appropriately skeptical without being cynical. And that's an important thing to teach our users as well. Just be aware of what is possible out there, but don't disbelieve everything. There is reliable information. This site is not reliable information, but it's gotten really popular, especially during the protests, Breaking News 911. And this is an example of one that has a mix of real news and not real news. But it looks really official, and it's got 720,000 followers. So this is an example of something that looks real, but often is not. Here's another one that faked out a lot of people, Antifa America. So this Twitter site, this Twitter account purported to be from Antifa, but they found, reporters who checked it out found that it was actually created by a white supremacist site to stir things up. So it wasn't really Antifa America, it was false. And excuse the language in that, it's just an example of things you're probably across yourself. Say that again, Mackenzie.
They couldn't even spell matters correctly. Black Lives Matter.
Well, there you go. There you go. Black Lives Matters. Maybe it's some others. I don't know. But yeah, that's a good catch. Exactly. And so what you want to do is go through the account and look when it was created, how many followers it has, who follows it, who does it follow. You know, you can see it was just created in May 2020. So things that are created around an event, sometimes that's a red flag that it's created just to push propaganda. And you can see that it was reported to Twitter, and Twitter did suspend the account. But I am going to show you later in the session about how to go back in time and see earlier versions of that account if you wanted to report on it or compare its content to something else. You can actually, even after it was suspended, you can go back and look at those previous versions of the account. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. The other kind of false information you have to be aware of is information that's coming from a real account, a verified account with a blue check mark on Twitter, for example. But the information itself is not real. And this is a tweet saying that I don't know, did you see the video of the 75-year-old man who was pushed down by police? And he cracked his head and blood was coming out of his ear. The police walked by. He was later taken to the hospital. But here the president is saying that he was, he could be an Antifa provocateur trying to scan police communications in order to black out the equipment. And he cites One America News Network as the source. And it turned out to be something like Treehouse America, which was the ultimate source, which is a conservative false news site pushing it. But I'm going to show you some ways how to check these kinds of tweets out. So the actual video was pretty widely shared. Okay, the leaf blower stopped, and now the dog starts. I apologize. So the original video was pretty widely shared. It came from WBFO in Buffalo, and you can go there and find it. And I'm going to show you in a minute how to use this actual video and watch it frame by frame, so you can see in slow motion and more detail what happened, and also different ways to examine the content. But reporters did take their time and interview the people involved, and found that he was not an Antifa provocateur, but a protester who was with the Catholic, correct me if I'm wrong, Catholic workers group, but not a provocateur. Another bit of disinformation that came out of the White House and had to be taken down is this bit saying that it was a video claiming that anarchists were staging pallets of bricks near protest sites so the protesters would have projectiles to throw. And then there was another conspiracy theory saying that the police pre-placed those pallets of bricks in order to entrap people or to set them up and arrest them for throwing bricks. But it turns out that there were several examples, and most of them have been debunked. They were just pallets of bricks that were by a construction site. And whether people were throwing them or not is a different question. But here's one. It was a picture that turned out to be stones encased in a wire case that was placed outside of a Jewish community center in California, the Chabad of Sherman Oaks. And the community center actually went and had to refute this White House claim. On their Facebook site, they posted some pictures of the, it's hard to see in this picture, but pictures of the security barriers from 2019. And then the White House, when the Washington Post fact checker asked the White House about it, they agreed that the video was misleading and took it down. So I'm not trying to pick on any particular politicians or Twitter accounts or videos, but this is not a partisan statement. It's a statement in favor of the facts. So I'm just using these examples to show you to be aware of sites that appear to be real and are false, or sites that are actually real but tweeting false information. So the moral of the story is check everything out. You know that old newsroom adage, if your mother says she loves you, check it out. I'm sure your mother loves you. One easy way to check out things is go to this dedicated Google site, g.co/fact-checking. And it aggregates other groups' fact checks, like factcheck.org, PolitiFact, Washington Post Fact Checker, from reputable sites that meet certain standards established by the International Fact Checking Network. You can, if you meet those standards, and you can mark up your fact checks to be included in this. And there's a markup tool right there on the site, right here. And the Gannett USA Today network is approved. And so if you've got fact checkers on your staff, or if you do it yourself, you can submit it to be included on this Fact Check Explorer site. So let's go back and take a look at how you can verify images. And it's very easy these days to manipulate photographs, especially. This is an example from GQ magazine from the Tech Titans Tech Conference. And it turns out there were women who attended the conference, but they didn't make it for the group photo. And so they just photoshopped the woman in. Watch this space. So that's an example of how even someone that you wouldn't expect, a site that you wouldn't expect to falsify imagery, has been sort of caught in the act. So there's an easy couple of ways to check out images. You can search images at images.google.com. When you've got that little camera there in the search bar, you can just drag an image right there onto the search bar. You can paste an image from a website, just copy the URL and paste it in. Or you can upload an image that you've downloaded or has been emailed to you, and you can upload it into the search bar. You can also search right from your screen. So this is an image that came over Twitter. It's claiming to be a protester in Hong Kong returning tear gas with a tennis racket, which is brilliant. And it's got a little Reuters watermark there. But I used to be based in Hong Kong, and there was just something about this image that didn't ring true to me. I think it was that the graffiti was not in Chinese characters. And so if you hover over the photograph and do a right click, or with a MacBook Pro, if you're using a trackpad, you can do a 2-fingered click right over the photograph, and then this pop-up menu will come up.
Maggie, this is specifically within the Chrome browser, right?
Yes, specifically within the Chrome browser. Actually, that's all I use. But try it out if you're using Safari or Firefox or something. See if it works. Anybody want to do that experiment for me right now?
This is going to cause me to open up Safari for the first time in a few months, but yeah.
All right, Mackenzie will report back to us on that. Some of these tools do only work or work best with Chrome. But on this one, you just click here and you search Google for image, and it will come up with an array of all the previous published images on the internet.
It's a Chrome specific.
Chrome specific. Okay, good to know. Thank you. I should have known the answer to that one. So when you do the right click, it comes up with a bunch of images as your search results, and then you can explore them. And you'll find that this image was indeed taken by Reuters, but not last summer, not in 2019 in Hong Kong, but in 2016 in France during a labor protest. It's pretty good technique. Maybe we all should be looking for tennis rackets. Here's another example of a false image that came up on Twitter last week, or a couple of weeks ago. After President Trump marched to St. John's Church and held the Bible, this image of Hitler doing a very similar gesture came up. But if you look at the hands, you'll notice that they're the same, which is a good clue. And if you do that reverse image search, you can find the original photograph of Hitler and see that he was not holding up a Bible. That's been photoshopped in. Another example is this picture, this image that was going around on Twitter with the hashtag DC Blackout, purporting to show an explosion near the Washington Monument. And if you do the same thing, you search Google for image, you can find that it was an image from a TV show, from Designated Survivor. So not a real Capitol bombing. You can see here in my little pop-up menu, I also have a couple of other options. This one is probably too small to see on your screen, but it's the InVid extension. And I'm going to show you that real quickly. InVid is a European tool, actually, that has just hived off this separate company called WeVerify. And so if you search for InVid, or you can also search for We Verify. And they have a Chrome extension that you can just download quickly, and then you can do the same thing, a two-fingered click or a right click over a photograph or a video, and it will give you all sorts of information. But let's talk about video for a minute. Just like photographs, video is often used out of context. It can be manipulated to deceive you, and even with malicious intentions. So those are some of the things that we're looking at with video. It doesn't have to be a deep fake. It can be a cheap fake. But it's quite easy just to edit it in a way that is deceptive. And so using these tools are really good ways to check them out. Mackenzie, were you about to say something?
No, I think I might have picked the wrong time to interrupt. There was a question about the image search, and I thought you were coming to a good pause. So when you come to a good pause about a video search, let's go back and tackle the image question.
Okay, we can do them both. Okay, so I have an example here for, this is what the InVid screen website looks like. And now it's We Verify. And so you can just go here to get the verification plugin. And that's really useful. If you're going to download one Chrome extension for verification, that's the one. I use it all the time because you can plug in a video and get an analysis. You can save a keyframe, just a still image from that video, and do a reverse search on that. It searches the YouTube thumbnails, where it's been used on Twitter and who owns the account. You can get a little magnifying glasses. It does all sorts of really interesting things. So actually, here's another example that we can try it out on. So this is from Twitter that shows a protester returning a tear gas canister with a beautiful soccer volley. Nice form there. But if you want to check this out, you can just do that right click over the picture and copy the video address, and then take it to We Verify and plug it in. Let's see, is this live? Tools. And you can also just do that with the two-finger click if you've got the, oh, that's just the plugin. Here, I'll do the shortcut.
We're not seeing you right now doing that, Maggie. We see InVid and We Verify, but if you're actually executing these searches, we're not seeing it on the screen you're sharing.
Thank you very much. All right. All right, can you, I'm going to present my entire screen and see all my secrets.
Huh.
All right, so.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. So I'm going to blow this up. Sorry, I was just sitting there talking away, narrating this scene. So here's the guy who is volleying the tear gas canister back to the police, which is nice form. So you can two-finger click or right-click over that video, and you can do it just right there on Twitter. Copy the video address, and put it into We Verify. So I'm going to do it through the plugin to show you how that works. So let's go to the video contextual analysis. And so here we are, InVid, We Verify, and you just paste that address you copied with your right click. Paste it in there and submit it. And it's going to take a minute to process it, but it's going to tell us whose Twitter account it is, how many times it's been shared, You'll be able to see when the account was created. Here we go. So it's got the original Twitter address. It's got 351,000 likes and 77,000, almost 78,000 retweets. It gives you the thumbnail if you want to reverse image search that. Tells you when it was uploaded, May 30th, and so on. But, and you can see that it's actually an old image. You can see the description of the creator. He's a New York comedian. And it was created in 2009. So we know that that wasn't from this round of protests. But that's an interesting way to check out a video.
And that relates a little bit to David's question. He's asking, can you verify the veracity of specific clips from inside full videos? Like, and it makes me think, like how you can do a search in Google, get returned a YouTube. Like, let's say I did a search of, how do you paint a fence, and you'll get at second 37 of some how-to video on YouTube. It's like jumped straight ahead. Can you do the same thing with verification? Pick a specific passage. And David, am I interpreting your question correctly?
Yeah, I was just going to sort of use the example, sort of like Maggie, you were saying how editing can allow you to sort of create a false narrative. If there's a way, if like a political ad sort of takes a clip out of context, a way to easily sort of reverse search that specific clip in an edited ad or an edited piece to sort of, check the sourcing of whatever that original video was.
Right. Yes. So if you put in that URL into the InVid We Verify tool, it will show you where it has come up before. And if you search it as just a keyframe from the video, it will also show you if that has come up before as part of another YouTube video, for example. It doesn't show you always. I mean, that's better if you just take a specific frame or a specific section from a video, because if someone has edited it, it may come up as a whole different video on YouTube, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's another tool that Amnesty International has created that shows whether something has come up on YouTube before or Vimeo, and I think I have that in the deck. But it doesn't work if it's been substantially manipulated. But you're right, a lot of these images are recycled and have been put up before, years before. So it's a good way to check it out. And then somebody just asked, what was the question? If you can, Hano's asking.
It might be easier to say it out loud.
Sure.
I found that video and I actually had discovered InVid as my first move of this has to be BS. But I didn't find a way to locate that video from anywhere other than that tweet. And so I guess what I'm wondering is if the video only exists in the context of a tweet rather than a standalone video, I mean, it seems like it would be a relatively easy workaround for these guys to just scrape a video, re-upload it, and make it up. So is that the kind of thing InVid would be able to locate? Because I didn't have any luck with that when I first tried it before. Right-clicking just gave me the option to say, copy video address, and I wasn't able to get anything else out of it.
Okay. Another thing you can do is go to We Verify, and it gives you the option to break it down into keyframes, and then you can search a certain frame as a reverse image search, and it will find it in a video. And if they use the same thumbnail on YouTube, which is less likely, you can do it that way. And the metadata tool is also interesting. Oh, that's not working. Oh, it's a video.
Yeah, on that one, originally, all it did was break it down into a bunch of still keyframes and basically then do a Google image search. And that got me nothing because it was just looking for other images. So maybe I did it wrong.
Yeah,
It was a tricky one.
it's a tricky one. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to always give you the answer depending on where it came from, and it could be an original video, and then it won't have been uploaded by anybody else. So what this is really good for is it gives you the metadata of the original video, and it also tells you whether similar videos have been posted. In your case, you weren't able to find anything. You know, it's not perfect. Another interesting thing it does is the forensic analysis, and it can tell you if an image has been significantly manipulated, photoshopped, and it will, it looks at it on a pixel level and shows you the hot spots. So it'll sort of glow red if those pixels don't match the surrounding pixels around it.
If only our historians had this when they were figuring out what was painted underneath the Mona Lisa.
Right. I don't know if it would work that forensically. But yes, if you're dealing with electronic pixels, it can analyze it pretty well.
Hannah's question, it has some similarity to Kim's question about images. And in this case, she did an image search and nothing came up. Can we conclude then that it's an original image, or that it's the first time that Google is indexing it? Or Kim, am I getting at your question correctly?
Yeah, I tried to search for, like, I just did it on our website for a development story that I wrote about today, just thinking maybe it'd pop up on the developer's website, but it just doesn't have anything. Ours is the only one with it. So I'm just wondering if that means we're the only one who have published it.
Yes. Well, that's one thing. I mean, these tools they're tools, and they're not definitive, but they can help you rule stuff out. And if you're the only one who's published it, then you're the original source. Did I get to your question?
Yes, thank you. Yep, thanks.
All right. Are you back seeing the presentation again?
Yeah. Well, within your browser, we are.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Sometimes when I jump around too much, I don't want to lose you. Okay, so this is another tool for looking at video. And this is watch frame by frame. And whoops. It's just a screenshot, but let me see if I can find the live site there. So I uploaded the video just with the URL of the Buffalo police officers and the man who was pushed to the ground. So that's happening pretty quickly. So you can put it on, let's get them out of the way. You can put it on watch frame by frame and set the number of frames per second. This is at 25 frames per second, or whatever speed you want. And then you just click through, and each time you hit the space bar, it's that number of frames per second. So you can, sorry, I don't mean to re-trigger anybody, but that's a good way to watch, especially police body cam video or user-generated video, a little bit more slowly.
Yes, because these videos oftentimes aren't on a fixed tripod or multi-camera shots with a producer in a truck giving you the best look. You've got portions or fragments, and the camera isn't always catching up, or is only lingers on the thing you want to see for a nanosecond. This is probably more likely the case than not in situations like this.
Yeah, so watch frame by frame. That's great if you're working from home, you don't have access to video editing equipment, and you want to slow it down more than you can do on YouTube or the usual things. So that's just watchframebyframe.com. So a lot of the tools I'm showing you are not Google tools. They're just tools I found that I think will be helpful. And people are asking about what happens if you don't find an image in a reverse image search. And there are cases, the most common case is that it's just never been uploaded before. It's somebody's original image and it's not recycled. But there are cases of people who do not exist. And these are AI generated images, just using pieces of people's faces that are scraped from the web and making a composite photo of not a real person. And so if you go to thispersondoesnotexist.com, there's a database that anybody can download of 10,000 photos of AI generated faces. And they say they make this available for, say, advertising agencies that don't want to, that are not able to or don't want to have to hire a whole range of models. They want to be more representative, or they want to use children and don't want to have to deal with all the child labor laws. But you can imagine all sorts of other nefarious purposes that using a fake image could be used for. And this is a kind of fun way to make you aware of what is possible. So if you go to whichfacesreal.com, it's almost like a game. They give you a pair of images and you get to choose which face you think is real. This is not a good example because some of them have really obvious glitches, like something's coming out of her sandwich or whatever there that just looks kind of unappetizing. So I'm guessing that the girl here is correct. But let's pull up a new pair. And so this is just to make you aware of the telltales. And some of the telltales are like the little wispy hairs around the crown of the head are really hard to generate realistically. The shine and wrinkles and blemishes on skin are hard to do artificially. And sometimes things like the ears are mismatched. The ear, like one earlobe will be attached and the other one will not be, or something. So given that, does anybody have a guess on which person is real? The man or the woman? Mackenzie, do you want to hazard a guess?
I think the man is real, but I'm sure I'm revealing all sort of implicit biases that I'm only vaguely aware of.
Well, I would vote with you just because of the shine and the wrinkles. But let's click and find out. Oh, incorrect. The image on the right is the real one. So it's really difficult. Actually, you can see the wispy hairs are pretty good there. I mean, we can try again. But sorry, say that again.
Sorry, well, it's too late now, but I was just going to say, I think there was like a little patch of his hair that was actually like green in the background.
Oh, okay, good spotting.
Wrong or not.
Yeah. And I know we've got a couple of photographers watching, so maybe you can use your expertise and help us out. But the problem with the telltales is that as soon as we are able to identify them, the manufacturers of the AI generated photos can try to correct for them. So it's a cat and mouse game in all of this artificial intelligence stuff, the deep fakes and so on. They're constantly getting better. And so the tools to detect them are necessarily reactive. Anybody want to guess on who's real here? It's getting harder than it used to be, I have to say. All right, Mackenzie.
I guess the one on the right is real because it's like they've cropped it, you know, there's somebody next to her. And so that seems like an awful lot of trouble to go to get a fragment of some other person. And also, as Jose Franco just said, it's just patently absurd to think a person would wear that hat. So that's bad.
Okay, we're clicking. You are incorrect.
Oh,
he wore the hat.
You and I, we're not good at this.
Yeah, it looks a little glitchy right here to me. And around the hair here. Anyway, I get a much closer view than you probably do, so I'm cheating a bit. But it's difficult. That's just to let you know that these kinds of things exist, and they're being used. There have been a couple of cases. There was one in Washington where someone who claimed to work for Brookings used one of these images, and it was not a real account and was eventually outed. I guess enough people around here know enough people at Brookings. So this
there's no accounting for taste, but the it makes me wonder. You know, let's pick a famous person, Barack Obama or Donald Trump, and we see 1,000 images of these people a day, and so we will come across a picture of one of those figures, and our brain will fill in the gaps, and it's like, yep, that's a real guy. He's the president of the United States, or used to be. But there are deep fakes of portraying either of those characters in situations where they were not, or doing things that they were not. So you would use what tool set to verify that? I mean,
well, that's difficult.
You gave the Hitler Bible example. That was pretty close to the scenario I'm talking about. Maybe that's it.
Right. And with videos, I mean, there are deep fakes around. And here, this is a tool that's being beta tested in newsrooms by Jigsaw, which is a subsidiary of, a sister company of Google, a subsidiary of Alphabet. And so it's very similar to what InVid is using with the pixel level detector. So this flag was added to the image. And with the assembler tool, you can go over it and see the red hotspot where it was added right there. That's one way. And they are working on some deep fake detection tools. Jigsaw actually hired a bunch of actors to go through ranges of emotions and scenarios to map their actual facial expressions and then map them against AI generated, or deep fake material. But it is difficult to check out. And the way that most of the deep fakes and cheap fakes have been caught is by sort of lateral comparison. Who else was at the event? Who else captured the same moment from a different angle? And then compare them, like the Nancy Pelosi video where they just slowed down her audio to make it sound like she was slurring or demented or drunk. There were enough other cameras there that they could compare the original to the altered one and catch it out. So deep fake versus cheap fake there. Did that answer your question? Kind of? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to show you some other, they call them OSINT or open source intelligence tools. And if you're really into this forensic investigation of content, the site you want to go to is called Bellingcat, which is based in London. And they've got pages and pages of different tools. And I linked to them in my resource list that you'll get afterwards. But here's one, how to investigate TikTok, for example. How to report on or not report on Russian disinformation. Investigating coronavirus fakes. And so they have videos that sort of walk you through, and they give you all sorts of tools that, real life spies use. Oh, look, they even use Google reverse image search and introduce you to other tools that use reverse image search, and so on. So that is Bellingcat, really good. And there's also firstdraftnews.org, which are sort of the standard bearers of detecting disinformation. And they've got all sorts of good tools and a lot of good conceptual stuff on First Draft News. They talk about whether you should even report on disinformation and how to gauge whether it has reached a tipping point where it's spilled into the mainstream, is being spread. But if it's just a small group that's trying to get their message across, you don't necessarily want to amplify their message by giving them attention. So they've got all sorts of good training and tools.
They talk about the giving a false claim oxygen.
Exactly, right. So how to decide whether it's become widespread enough to actually pay attention to it and to debunk it, and then how to debunk it. But this is an example of a story done by BBC Africa Eye, where someone posted an actual execution, and they took that social media video and forensically investigated it and narrowed using Google Earth and geolocation tools. They were able to actually find the location where it happened and then go there and do interviews and find out who was responsible. So that's worth looking up, just as a really interesting walkthrough about how they did it. They even, lined up the hills that they found on Google Earth. Okay, here's an example of a deep fake.
So many haters. I really don't care because their data has made me rich beyond my wildest dreams.
Okay, I'm just going to stop that there. That's supposed to be Kim Kardashian talking about how data has made her rich. So that was a deep fake.
When there's so many haters, I really don't care because their data has made me rich beyond my wildest dreams.
So it's just to show you how they can use those expression maps and put words into someone's mouth that they're not actually saying. So it's not that widespread right now. You can see examples of it, and that was made by a group called Spectre in the UK. They also did one of Mark Zuckerberg, and there's lots of famous examples of Obama and is it Jordan Peele putting words in his mouth that he never said. But just so that you're aware that they're out there and it's a possibility. And to understand more about the technology behind it, Reuters has put together this really good online series called Manipulated Media, and it shows how the deepfakes are created and what to look for and how to detect them. So that's just Reuters.com manipulated media / manipulated media, and it's worth going through. It's quite instructive. It doesn't really help us detect them so readily, but it makes them aware what to look for. But when you're doing your verification, one of the first questions you should ask is, what is the source? What is their agenda? Do they have an agenda? Are they trying to inform you or persuade you or manipulate you? And who posted it? So here's a couple of tools to find out who might be the source, especially online, social media, and websites. So you may already know about who.is, and this tells you who registered that website. And that can be quite useful, especially for sourcing. Sometimes people will include their private emails and cell phone numbers in there. And even when they hide behind shelf companies or privacy, registration privacy companies, there are other ways that you can check it out. So here are a couple of websites that popped up in Michigan. They're false news websites. They were pushing a certain agenda. One is michigancapitalnews.com. And when you look it up, you can see that they're hiding behind a domains by proxy company to keep their registration private. But you can, there was another one that looked a lot like the first site. So I did a search on that for the lansingsun.com, and it had exactly the same information. Also a private registration on the same day, the same time, the same IP addresses, and so on. So you can compare those registrations even if they're trying to be private.
And Maggie, just some other examples of, or twists off of that. I mean, it's fishy that lansingsun.com would be registered in Scottsdale, Arizona. That doesn't make a ton of sense right off the bat, even if there's, and then, or maybe you would do a story search on Lansing Sun and note that they've never published a single story in their life before yesterday. That might be a tell as well, right? I mean, I'm just thinking of other sort of common sense verification Hannah points out that GoDaddy is in Scottsdale, so maybe everything's registered in Scottsdale. I don't know. Hannah, good point. Maybe that's why we got all of our AOL traffic from the 703 area code back in the day, and wondered why everybody in Reston, Virginia was reading the Lansing State Journal.
Right. I think Hannah's right. I think that this company, Domains by Proxy, is in Scottsdale, Arizona. But you're absolutely right too, Mackenzie, and that those are good telltales to look for. And when it was registered and by whom. And it doesn't work as well for companies that are based in Europe because of the privacy laws in Europe are much stricter. But you can find out quite a lot of information from who.is. Another way to search on a website, you can, I went through these in our last session on advanced search, how you can refine your search to get more specific results by taking out a term or searching just a particular site. But also, if you look at a cached site, and cached means the last time that it was recorded by the search engine. So the search engine is constantly crawling the web and documenting websites, and the more popular sites are documented more often. But here's an example. So if you go to if you wanted to find that Antifa America site that's been taken down by Twitter, you can search for the cached version. So cache : twitter.com/Antifa America. And you get the last recorded version of that site. And so even though it's been taken down, you can see the information about it. You know, it is supposedly based in this town, which is from South Park, the cartoon South Park in Colorado, and so forth.
Can you specify that by date or not for that one? Only for, I think it's only Wayback Machine that you can do by date, correct?
That's right. So cache is just the last recorded version. So that has to be relatively recent. But if you want to go back further than that, here's the Wayback Machine. So that's archive.org, or you can just Google Wayback Machine and you put in the URL of the site that you're looking for, and it will give you a calendar. You can search by date. Here, let's do it live. Twitter.com, Antifa America. I must have typed it in wrong. Antifa America. Well, it's not giving us results anymore. That's interesting, because I just did this the other day. But we can go back to see what I got. And so you have a calendar. Maybe I typed it in wrong the second time. But or else it'll list the URLs and you can sort by date, like in a spreadsheet. And it will take you back to those archive tweets. And you can also archive websites and tweets and things yourself. So if you're doing a story about disinformation, or you're doing a story about a website or a post that you think might be deleted or changed, you can copy the URL and upload it yourself to the Wayback Machine, and then it will be archived for anyone to see. It'll give you a URL to search. So when you're doing a story and you don't want to drive good traffic to a bad site, you can archive it and then give the archive.org URL for people to look at. But also when you are reporting on disinformation or misinformation, you should be sure to label the image or the claim very clearly as fake, because people just will see something and register it as real unless it's clearly marked as not real. So here's an example of an old, Antifa America tweet I got by clicking on that last link. Okay, were there any more questions on that bit? Oh, I was going to show you, sorry, let me go back. Well, let me take your question, but there were a couple on, someone asked me in the last session about searching Facebook. And so here are a couple of sites that are good for searching Facebook. Facebook used to have something called Facebook Graph, but they have disabled it. And so there's sort of a workaround called graph.tips. It doesn't even look like a real site. It's so basic, but it's real. It's reliable. And you can search posts, people, photos, pages, so on. And the other one is findmyfacebookid.com. So you can also search by a Facebook ID, and every account has one. And so you go here and you put in the profile name, and it'll give you a number of your account. And then you can search that number and see what people have posted across Facebook. So those are two tools you can use to search Facebook. Okay. Are we good? Any questions now?
No, we're all caught up, unless anybody wants to throw one out now.
I have a question. So is this, like, let's say like someone has deactivated their Facebook account and you don't have their Facebook URL ID. Is there any way of still, like, I guess, like, how do you, I guess, like, search back on deactivated accounts?
You can search, cache : facebook.com/ and then their name, and that may bring up something. Or just Facebook and their name, that you may get an old thing or something that someone has reposted. And the Wayback Machine, you might even be able to search by name like that, facebook.com/ and then the name. But since there's so many people with the same name, it's not as specific. Okay. So are you seeing my screen again with our little robot?
Yep, we sure are.
Okay. All right. So one problem with verification are bots, that are just trying to amplify information. They're, as you know, they're automated accounts, not real people. Often using AI-generated photos or false photos on their account. But in order to spot the bot, you can look for very similar content, same memes, same hashtags, no picture, a brand new account. There's all sorts of things that you can detect just by looking. But there are also some tools that help you audit Twitter accounts for bots. And it's almost 4 o'clock. It looks like we're going to go a little bit over. So if you have to jump off, feel free. But I'm going to go on for another 4 or 5 minutes and then answer questions. But this is Botometer. It's a tool that was developed by the Indiana University to audit Twitter accounts. And red is the most bot-like behavior, which they define as tweeting more than 75 times a day, or only amplifying other people's tweets, no original content, tweeting around the clock. Most humans need to sleep at some point, or only tweeting 9 to 5, like it's your job. So they look for that. And so does this tool called Twitonomy. And Twitonomy also has a bunch of other tools that are interesting to play with. But these are 2 that you can look at to audit Twitter accounts. And then my favorite, to show the spread of viral information, or the way a tweet has spread, is Hoaxy, which is also Indiana University. And here's an example of the hashtag Mayor Cheat after the Iowa caucus. There was a claim by this guy, Jack Posobiec, that Pete Buttigieg had somehow stolen the Iowa caucuses, and so they were calling him Mayor Cheat. And you can see how it started with his tweet and how it spread, and you can see what the nodes are in the network and how far it spread. That one didn't get very far, but you can see how it moved. Here's another one. I didn't animate this one. Oh, the cool thing about these, they're downloadable for free and embeddable. So if you wanted to use this to illustrate a story about how a hashtag or a certain kind of tweet went viral, it's really useful. Hoaxy. So this is the how the name of the alleged whistleblower for the impeachment trials was spread. So what is it? Clear News, Real Clear News wrote a story on Halloween, and the next day, these two Twitter accounts spread it widely, and you can see who were the main spreaders and how far it got. And it also rates the users by bot-like behavior. So not very many bots. You know, this is a network of real people, but you can see who's right there in the center. So that's a really useful tool. There it is, Hoaxy, for tracing the spread of viral information. And another way to look at tweets is PolitWhoops, which shows deleted tweets of public figures, politicians. And this was created by ProPublica and the Sunlight Foundation. And you can look by state and look at your own member of Congress and see what they might have tweeted in the middle of the night and regretted the next morning and deleted. Most often it's just tweets that are reformatted for a typo because Twitter doesn't let you edit. But sometimes you get that whoops kind of tweet. So that's fun, PolitWhoops. And so those are the main things I have for you today. If you'd like to go over something again or have any more questions, go ahead and email me at mfarley@google.com. And if you'd like to set up a more in-depth training on something, go ahead and email us at newslabsupport@google.com or email me. And we can go more in depth on some of these tools or work with you on a project. Okay.
Maggie, this was really, really good of you to do this. I know the 30 plus people who spent the hour with you walked away with numerous different techniques and tools. And how can we make sure that everybody gets the materials from today? It'll be emailed to them directly, right? If you had read for this.
Right. So I think you have, or I will email you a Google Doc with links and resources, which you can send to everyone who signed up. And we're going to try to get a recording of this and make that available as well if you want to watch it again.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for everybody who came.